right. Welcome to the Imperfectly Inspirational Podcast. I am your host, Chris Bowman. We're so glad to have you tuning in this week. Whether you're a new listener or whether you've been listening from the beginning, we're so grateful for all of our listeners. And last week in our previous episode, which was the last one of our Beatitude series, I did mention that we were going to have a style shift in how we operated and how we did things in the format of our podcast episode. And generally that was true, but we tested it out and it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. We are doing a little bit of a shift still in kind of how we present things. And for the most part, there still may be some one episode things, but we really want to stretch things into 2 episodes and dive a little bit deeper into what the topic is that we're talking about. So we'll have about the same length of an episode, but that topic will be now 2 episodes to give you more depth, more understanding, and to get a little more clarity on some things. But we really did try a new style and a new format, and this seems to work best for us, and we seem to have a good response from it. We sent it out to some people and let them listen, and they said no, absolutely not. So you're going to hear our typical style, but you're just going to get a little bit more in depth. So we didn't lie to you. You're still going to get a little bit changed, but not that much. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump into our topic this week. We're going to be kicking off a 2-part series. As I just mentioned, it's going to be called, or it is called, Give What You've Been Given. This title in this episode has been really kind of stirring in my heart for a little bit because I think it really captures the heartbeat of the Christian life. We're called to live and give in our lives out of what we have received from God. We're not to give these things out of fear or trying to prove ourselves to be better, but out of grace, because grace and mercy, it's what we've been given. So in this first episode, we're going to be talking about mercy, specifically the mercy that we've received from God and how easy it is to forget the weight of it all or to take it for granted. And we're going to be looking at a story that Jesus told in Matthew chapter 18. It's one of those parables that sounds kind of simple and quick to just read through it. But man, when you really dig deep with it, it kind of shakes you up in a good way. But as we start, I want to ask a question here. Have you ever felt like someone asks too much of you? We're talking about mercy and giving. In our lives, we experience some people who ask a lot of us. Maybe it's someone who hurt us or they let us down, they broke our trust, and then they end up coming back expecting forgiveness, acting like nothing ever happened. Well, if so, you're not alone. We see that Peter here, he was the apostle, he's always the first one to speak up. He had a similar question in Matthew chapter 18, verse 21. He comes to Jesus and he says, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times? Well, and honestly, I think Peter here was being generous because culturally in that time, the rabbis taught that forgiving someone 3 times was enough, and that was considered righteous. So Peter's kind of thinking, well, hey, I'll double that. I'll give 1 more, and that should impress Jesus, right? That's kind of what we all do. But Jesus replies back. He says, I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. And some translations will say 70 times 7, and that's 490. But either way, Jesus isn't giving us a number to track. He's saying stop counting, because real forgiveness, it's not about keeping a tally saying, I did this, you did that. No, it's about how far do I, or it's not about how far do I have to go, but instead it's about how far you're willing to love, right? And then Jesus, we know being Jesus, he tells this parable to explain exactly what he means. He starts in verse 23, says, the kingdom of heaven is like a king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. Now let's pause here because Jesus often uses the parables to explain spiritual truth, using things that, everyday concepts that we could understand. And in this case, he's painting this picture about God's kingdom and what it looks like when God is in charge. So in the story, the king begins to settle debts, and one of the servants is brought in before him. And this is where he says next in verse 24, a man who owed him 10,000 talents was brought to him. We're going to pause that again because 10,000 talents. When you think of talents, it may not seem like much, but in the first century, in that time, it was a lot. Let me break this down for you. I did some math on this. I looked this up. One talent was equivalent to about 6,000 denarii, and one denarius was a single day's wage. So one talent equals 6,000 days of work. Multiply that by 10,000. That's 60 million days of labor, over 160,000 years worth of wages. And in today's money, we're talking about billions and billions of dollars. So Jesus is intentionally exaggerating here. He's making this debt so massive, so unimaginable that everyone listening kind of probably were like, whoa, dude, what'd you do? No, but no regular person could ever rack up that kind of debt and definitely not repay it in that time. So, hearing what his debt is, this servant, he falls to his knees begging. He says, "Be patient with me and I will pay it back." But I'm going to be honest, that's kind of delusional because there's no way he could pay it back, not even in 10 lifetimes. But instead of throwing him in prison, instead of giving maybe more time to pay it back or some partial relief, the king does something absolutely stunning. It says the servant's master took pity on him. He canceled the debt and let him go. Let's understand that. And the debt was not reduced, it was canceled. He wipes it clean, completely undeserved, just gone. And that right there is the heart of the gospel. That's what God did for me, and that's what God did for you. We owed him everything, and we had nothing to pay with. But instead of punishing us, God sent Jesus to pay the debt that we couldn't touch. Colossians 2:13-14 says this so beautifully. He forgave us all our sins, having canceled the charge of our legal indebtedness. He has taken it away, nailing it to the cross. That's what mercy looks like. Mercy, it's not just a feeling, it is an act. It's a decision, and there's a cost to it. And here, I think it's easy to forget that when we talk about mercy, we often kind of could say it like it's just saying, oh, God's mercy, we're grateful for it. We're just thinking that it's this invisible force. But no, mercy is heavy. It's weighty because mercy costs something. It wasn't cheap. And at the time of this airing, we're coming off of Easter. This is literally 2 days after Easter, where we talk about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and we know what he went through that Friday before his death on the cross. That was God's mercy. We know it came toward us at the price of Jesus' blood. It came through his suffering, his death, his resurrection. That, my friends, is the weight of mercy. And when you begin to grasp that, you cannot stay the same. You cannot hold grudges the same way. You cannot look at other people the same way, because when we have been forgiven the billions of debt, air quote debt, that we owe, and then we turn around and we choke someone over $5, really? But that's exactly what we're going to talk about in part 2 of this series, because that's what happens next in this parable. Before today, though, I want to stay right here for a minute on what we're talking about, because maybe you've heard about God's mercy your whole entire life, or maybe this is all new to you. But either way, I want to ask you, have you really received it? Like deep down, heart level, deep in your soul, have you really received and understood what that mercy is in your life? Or are you still out there trying to earn God's mercy? You're still trying to make up for the things that you did. Still carrying around this guilt and shame that Jesus already paid for. Because, friend, if you belong to Jesus, if you came to the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ in your heart, your debt is canceled. You are free. And as a pastor of mine has said in the past, quit trying to get into a room you're already in. Quit trying to prove something to God. Quit trying to say, well, I'll pay this back, I'll pay this back. It is already forgiven. It's done. The weight of that sin, the weight of that suffering, the weight of those things are gone. At least they should be, because the price is gone. There's no more cost in our lives for our sin if you are under the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. So understand, the more that that truth takes root in your soul, the more that it's going to transform how you see everything. So this week, in this episode, we wanted to talk about mercy. And before we jump to the next part of this, which is giving mercy to others, I wanted us to think and sit with that mercy that we have been given. Think about it. Really feel it. Really understand the things that you've done in your life, the places you've been, what God has forgiven, and that you owe nothing. And if you're having trouble discerning it, pray through it, thank God for it, and just let yourself feel it. Let the weight of mercy humble you. Let it heal you, and let it reshape your heart, friend. Now, next week, we're going to follow this parable a little further. We're going to see what happens with the servant or when he forgets what he's been given. But for now, I thank you for being here, and I hope that this message encouraged you. And if it did, maybe send it to a friend who needs a reminder of how loved and forgiven that they really are. And as you go through your week, remember, you are not carrying that debt anymore. Jesus took it all away. And folks, that changes everything. But that's all that I have for today. And I'm so grateful that you've tuned in and listened to this message. If you liked what you heard, definitely subscribe, follow us. You can send me an email. The link will be in our information area. But thank you for tuning in. And as I say each and every time, I love each and every one of you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week.